To this day, Hannah Baker will never graduate high school. To this day, Hannah will never find her true love. To this day, Hannah will never hear the cry of her newborn. Hannah Baker is dead. Plot summary. The novel 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher is introduced with the narrator Clay Jensen nervously sending a package to a girl named Jenny. The trigger incident points out that the package was originally mailed to Clay containing 13 suicide notes in the form of cassette tapes from Hannah Baker, a girl at Clay's high school who recently committed suicide. Each of the tape is dedicated to one of the 13 listeners with an explanation of why they are held responsible for Hannah's death. After listening to the tapes, each of the individuals must send the tapes to the next person on the list. Clay believes that he does not deserve to be on the list because of how kind he was to Hannah. The action of the story rise as Hannah speaks through the cassette tapes about her detrimental experiences of her so-called friends betraying or taking advantage of her vulnerability. The climax of the story occurs when Clay finally discovers that he did not cause Hannah any pain, but he failed to help her in her time of need. The following action of the story was a recording of Hannah visiting the school's guidance counselor, who failed to take Hannah's situation seriously and let her go without any suitable help. The story concluded with Clay sending the tapes off to the next person. Character. Clay Jensen is the main character of the story and one of the receivers of the tapes. No information about his appearance is mentioned in the story, but based on his actions, it is inferred that he is an impulsive teenager. For example, when Clay wants to borrow a Walkman from his friend Tony, Clay impulsively takes the Walkman from Tony's car without asking. Clay's impulsivity is significant to the story because it is inferred that from Clay's impulsive decisions towards Hannah had a part in what resulted in her death. Setting. This story took place in a small town estimated around the time of 2005 to 2010, because Clay explained how cassette tapes were slowly becoming obsolete because of the advances in technology. Plus, the text states that Clay was following Hannah's map throughout the story around their small town. In North America, the subject of bullying and teen suicide is rising in awareness, which puts an even stronger portrayal on Hannah as a typical North American teenager facing the problems that comes with growing up, which is why the setting is significant. Tone. From the moment Clay opens the mysterious package, there is a tone of suspense throughout the story. The author created this tone by opening the story with a past death. This immediately triggers the audience's imagination and curiosity to run wild in suspense, which can only be satisfied by continuing to read the story. Every story that Hannah tells throughout the cassette tapes leading up to Clay's story adds a layer of suspense and mystery that keeps the reader on edge and eager to know more about Hannah. Theme. The theme of the story revolves around betrayal. The acts, thoughts, and consequences of betrayal is a big part of what Hannah sees in her life. Throughout the story, Hannah talks about how her so-called friends have betrayed her. For example, Justin, Hannah's first kiss, betrayed her by spreading a rumor about her. Likewise, Jessica Davis, one of Hannah's first friends, betrays her by letting a boy's opinion get in the way of their friendship. These are just some of the acts of betrayal Hannah faces. Acts of betrayal are usually selfish and show signs of vulnerability, which is why a powerful theme to base the book off of. Relate. I've selected the poem To This Day by Shane Kozan. This poem relates to the feeling of loneliness overpowering a person's life, which is what Hannah experienced in her life. The poem talks about being targeted as if people are trying to bury you under names. The poem reminds the audience that words or names do not define who you really are. This would be an amazing selection for Hannah to read because she let the words and lies of others take the better of her. This poem is written and presented in a way that every word has a powerful meaning, as if the poem is yelling at you to open your eyes. Similarly, this is how I felt about Hannah's word selection. She wanted the listeners to feel the guilt yelling in their face. Reflect. I would like to rate this book a 7 out of 10. I like how the book had many powerful themes and messages to the audience about how friendship is very powerful and a small act of betrayal can break all trust and hope. But I did not like the occasional quick moves from Clay's narration to Hannah's story. It made it more of a challenge to read. The message of the story can be contradicted, so I would only recommend this book to anyone who thinks they are prepared to break into a sad book full of betrayal and guilt. In conclusion, the novel 13 Reasons Why portrays Hannah as a suicidal teenager because of the problems she faces, when in fact she could have been saved if the right resources and people were there to help her. This works as a message to all teenagers to not let words and names define who you are. You are worth so much more to the world.
Created using Powtoon.